I'll go ahead and call to order our August 21st, 2024 Longview Metropolitan Planning Organization Transportation Policy Board meeting. Our invocation and Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mr. Archer.
Please join me in prayer. Father God, we just thank and praise you for this incredible day. We thank you and praise you for this community that we have the blessing to serve. And we thank you for the gifts that this community brings to us. And we just praise you. We thank you that you be in guidance of the decisions made today and of the information. And we just give all glory to you in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Join me in pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Archer.
Thank you.
First up is citizen comment. I do not have any comment cards. Is there any citizen who would like to make a comment? Nope. I will pass that on the agenda. Next, approval of the April 10th, 2024 meeting minutes. Mr. McBride.
So provide the minutes in our packet earlier this week. Just wanted to pass that along. There were a couple errors that we caught after we sent them out, misspelling of a name. But we got that corrected, and there was another word that we fixed as well. So that has been corrected. But if you see any errors, we'll correct those as well at this time.
Okay. And I need a motion to approve the minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Approve.
In a second.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Next, welcome new MPO policy board members. Mr. McBride.
So welcome, Mayor Ishihara and Mayor Flanagan. Congratulations on running and winning y'all's race. So we've got Mayor Flanagan for Gladewater and Mayor Ishihara for the Longview. So both congratulations. Welcome to the board. Both had orientation, so thank you both for attending. Get to know a little bit about the MPO prior to this meeting. So it's been really good. So both congratulations on winning.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I apologize for being a little late. I had a sick kid I had to pick up from school
Oh, no.
and get him home and then rush over here. So
You're all good.
Next is discussion on development and milestones of mobility 2050. Mr. McBride, that's you again.
Thank you. So, as some of y'all may be aware of, or most of you should be aware, we're developing our long-range plan, our Metropolitan Transportation Plan 2050. We're coining the term Mobility 2050. Last year we did 2045, so it's only reasonable to go to 2050. So it's our 25-year plan that gets adopted every 5 years. And so here's the timeline of we started and we hired a consultant back in December of 23. And when we first started out, we were looking at the previous plan, 2045, and we were going through the data as well as looking at the projects that are currently on the list, making sure, combing through what exactly has been happening, what projects are currently on schedule or are currently happening, what are projected to happen, and what looking towards the future. And so March and May, we did the needs analysis of looking to see, data requests. They got our travel demand model, started running scenarios. And then right in between, I think it was April, we did our first public meeting. So we invited everyone to come out. If you had any projects or any issues, whether it be a state roadway or local, we valued your feedback to incorporate that into our plan. And so we did have a mechanism. We do have a project website, which I'll advertise later on in this meeting today, where we captured a lot of the feedback through survey data, as well as an interactive map, where people could zoom in and put a pin and say, there's a lot of congestion right here, or we really like the sidewalks right here. Can we see more of this? As well as just hey, have y'all thought about this? And so we provide that avenue for individuals to be able to provide feedback for our transportation network. And so that's kind of the bulk of the public involvement that we see. And I'll talk about the second public meeting that I'll be announcing later today. So fast forward, we also appointed a steering committee. And so that's made up of individuals from our technical committee who kind of help guide the document. So we understand technical committee actually looks at the review but we want a group of people that can dedicate additional time outside of that to comb through and say, look at the area. They've got specific knowledge where they're staff of the communities or they're, work for the state. And so they can help with projection estimates, anything of that nature to kind of help move the project a little bit along. And so that's kind of just a little, the timeline that we're running through. And I'll kind of go over the results that happened between those months right now. So first off was going through our boundary update. And so we have approved that at our April meeting. However, we're still waiting for the governor's approval. And right now, that's still pending. However, we decided as the technical committee and steering committee as well as staff that it's just important that we just go ahead and just assume that we're going to take this in. It checked all the boxes. We took in the minimum urban area. We expanded a little bit. We just don't see any reason why it would get denied. So we figured let's go ahead and just assume that it's going to get approved because we need to get it approved before this long-range plan gets adopted. And let's just go ahead and start running scenarios, looking at future projects and stuff like that. So once we took that, we said, okay, this is our new area. So you can see our 2045 on the left-hand side of the screen and 2050 map. So our thoroughfare plan is essentially our road network. And that is looking at current roadways as well as maybe future connectivity. So probably some east to west connectivity on the northern side and seeing what are the needs for our area to make sure that we don't come in a bind later on. And so we took the new boundary, looked at Hallsville, looked at FM 450, and we had to classify these new roadways within our network. And so looking at it, we reclassified that to meet certain parameters within our thoroughfare plan. That's essentially the thoroughfare plan tells us how a road should be designed. That's just in layman's terms. It needs to serve this capacity. It needs to be this size in order to meet your demand for your area. So we went through, checked to make sure, saw, were there any roadways that local jurisdictions done, like a widening on Real Road? George Ritchie, was that completed? What year was that completed? And just kind of just updated that. Additionally, the steering committee looked at the level of service. And so this is looking at specifically what was, if we projected out to 2050 with the current list of projects that we had, this is what the level of service, which level of service is essentially your volume over capacity ratio is your congestion. And so looking at it, your greens are good. I mean, your greens are A, B, C. Your Fs are red. That's bad, grade school. So looking at it, you can kind of see, where is our thoroughfare, wherever our thoroughfare is needing a lot of more attention. And so we can see Gilmore Road is projecting to have some potential. We might need to do something about it. 31 Southwest 31 going to the interchange is looking that we need to do something. Highway 80. So there's just portions of it. FM 450s looking at. We just kind of help basically show the map of where we need to start concentrating our new efforts in over the next 25 years. We also looked at the crash data, and so this is very significant. Safety is always our top priority when it comes to our long-range transportation plan. And so we look at the crash data, where all the crashes are happening. We also look at if they're fatalities, because fatalities, obviously we do not want those. Road to Zero, that's TxDOT's mission. And so we're looking at each of the roadways and see where that crash data is, because what approach do we need to do? Better lighting? Is it a curve? What is it out there that is causing these crashes? Speed, anything like that. And so that kind of helps when we come in with the public involvement is that, yeah, the speed limit's 45, but, it's a straightaway and people are going 70. It's like, okay, maybe we need to look at that and see, or there's a new school there. Maybe we need to look at reducing a speed limit there, just something of that nature. And so that kind of helps paint the picture for our thoroughfare. Additionally, we incorporated crash data for bicycle and pedestrian. We do have a walk-bike plan or bicycle and pedestrian plan that this board approved back in 2018. And so we also consider that mode of travel as very significant in our area as we encourage alternate modes of transportation. So we also consider that data when we're developing our decisions. So taking all that data that I just presented to you and all the public involvement of identifying new roadways and stuff, we put it into what we call a evaluation matrix. And so essentially we get all these projects and then we start finding the data as it relates to specifically the traffic volume. So we're looking at traffic counts, congestion reduction. So we're looking at what's the volume of capacity for each of these roadways. Additionally, crash data, asset safety. Excuse me. And then as well as we added a couple more things, connection to amenities. So that's where we use local knowledge, school areas, or any sort of economic development sort of things that would drive new workforce, any sort of those sorts, I say amenities. It's more of like attractions. Additionally, we look at infrastructure needs. So we consider that it's minimal, but we do consider, there's a roadway that needs reconstruction. Should we consider bumping that a little bit higher? Because it needs reconstruction. However, maybe it's the demand of travel is now on that, so maybe we should bump it up and widening it, instead of repaving it, maybe we should just go ahead and start building for the future. Additionally, we also consider project readiness. I feel like as internal staff, that's what I pushed for, is because I don't like wasting money. And so if we put money towards developing plans or preliminary engineering, anything of that nature, we really should, consider where our time and money is spent beforehand on resources to bring it back forward. Not necessarily saying we need to implement it, but we should still consider it because it was done in the past. It had some value to it. Let's not just push it aside. Let's give it a little bit more bump in our criteria to kind of elevate these projects. And so this will formulate a huge Excel spreadsheet that I'll provide each of the steering committee and the technical, and I'll provide to y'all if you'd like. This is how we prioritize projects within our MTP. Is based upon this evaluation criteria matrix. Lastly, what we did was we ran through existing, committed, and then we started saying our potential projects. I kind of alluded to Gilmore Road might be a potential project we do, or FM 450. So this is kind of just a snapshot. This is not what's happening. This is not approved. This is more of a brief analysis of what all the data we have currently. This is what we're looking at. So we've got some that are existing and some that could be potential. As you can see, 42, that's a current project that's already planned, but it hasn't been completed yet. We're just validating a lot of the information. And with that, that's kind of the update for the long-range plan where we're at today. Looking to bring the actual official document to y'all in November, but I felt it was necessary to kind of show us that there's a lot of data and stuff happening behind the scenes, a lot of public involvement, and then in November we'll actually present the findings, what the next list of projects, as well as survey data and all that stuff to kind of help paint the picture in a more prettier light.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, discussion? Everybody good? Okay, moving on to the next one. Scheduling of Mobility 2050 Public Engagement number 2.
All right, also this goes segues. I wanted to point this in at least on the agenda. Sometimes we'll say this is a staff update, but I really wanted to push public involvement a lot more. Our first public meeting, we did have a good turnout that came in person, but we had a significant amount actually online. So we had more participants online than we did actually in person. However, we still value public input or in-person input because they can actually see these maps drawn out and be like, no, that intersection, that bridge needs to be, and draw on it, and it's just a lot. It's like a workshop almost. So Tuesday, September 17th, 4 to 6, at Maude Cobb in the Idleman room, we're going to meet, and it's a drop-in, come as you go, and just make notes, see what the findings are. So we encourage y'all we'll reach out to each of the cities and counties to post the flyer. We do public notice. We're going to work with our fiscal agent to kind of help advertise that on social media, just use different avenues to kind of get our word out about this. A lot of this project, what I've said mostly is that it's more validating our 2045 because we had that wonderful thing called COVID that kind of, I won't say push, but had to reprogram a lot of the projects that were already in the stack. And so we're kind of just validating, making sure everything that we planned a few years ago are still existing today. But it's still a very important process that I think the public needs to be aware of and be more in tune with how things get done and be more of an avenue to let their voice be heard. So there you go.
Good. Good. Next, discussion on Longview MPO planning agreement.
So this is the wonderful contractual agreement between the policy board, TxDOT, as well as our fiscal agent. I say fiscal agent because it's a loose term, but essentially it's whoever wants to house the MPO. The city of Longview has, back 30 years ago, are the ones who decided to create the MPO or were forced to create the MPO. And so they bear the burden of putting up the money to make us run, and then they get reimbursed by us. So this is a contractual agreement between the state, the policy board, which is you all, as well as the city. And so basically it's renewed every 6 years. Attached in y'all's packet was a letter from the state saying, we understand it's coming up in September. We were on the verge of rewriting internally. However, the state kind of pulled back and said, we want to do a more global, like a more state-focused contract to make it more universal in some aspects. There's some variation between contracts, but just kind of pull the reins with title, like what's my title, what are my responsibilities, and just be a little bit more consistent across the state. And so we'll start seeing that more internally, working through that working group, and we'll provide updates to y'all as needed. And so the next contract, our contract was supposed to expire this September. It's renewed for 1 more year. And as you saw from that letter, so next September we should have a new contract. So I'll take it to the fiscal agent, city council for their approval, and their attorneys as well to make sure that everything's good to go. So it's just a routine thing that is very important because it makes us exist. So with that, any questions?
Thank you. Not for me. Next, MPO staff updates.
Sorry, I'll get to listen to me all day. So MPO updates, there's a lot of documents that we have been submitted behind the scenes. I mentioned the planning area boundary update, which was our bylaws that I submitted back in April after y'all's blessing. Still pending. We were one of the first ones to submit, and we were ahead of schedule. However, a lot of the other MPOs were not ahead of schedule, and so they kind of put us on hold, and the state contracted a consultant to kind of help guide that process. So we're in limbo with them. However, we're in first in line to get approval. There's a lot of other states or a lot of other MPOs that are having to do this as well. We just did all our stuff internally, so yay us. The TIP, 23 through 26 fiscal years, that was a transit update that was back in April approval as well. That got approved, and so Scott Lewis with Transit is happy. So that checks all his boxes. Our 25 through 28 TIP, that was the other document that got approved at the April meeting. It's pending. It will go to, I think it's under public involvement right now, but the state will approve it this month, and it will roll into the Fed's hands for their review, both Federal Highway as well as Federal Transit Administration. And so that should be hopefully reviewed and approved in October, and then that document will supersede the 23 through 26. And so that will be the new list of projects. Additionally, our APL is our annual project listing. This is our nice document to say what all happened in that fiscal year. We submitted that. I presented that to y'all. Can't remember the date on it. But there was a correction in the data that I received from TxDOT, and so that got back into my hands. Even though we already approved it, we're working through to revising that, validating, make sure all the data was correct. There was a couple projects that we were supposed to claim, but we weren't supposed to claim. So we're just kind of making sure that everything's good. But they haven't said if there should be an additional approval, but we're working through that. After that, they'll send us the 23 data we'll put together, and I'll present that to y'all as well. Lastly, our APER is the Annual Performance Expenditure Report. That's our lovely budget report that we do every year to kind of say what we spent, what were we over, what were we under, and then I come to y'all to say this is what it is, and then I transmit that to the state and the Fed saying here's what we spent. So those are the updates on the documents. Lastly, I have staff updates. I'm going to the national conference next month to get some additional training. Kyle and I both attended, Kyle who's on staff, both attended our travel demand model training to get more versed in our travel demand model. And we spent a week in Austin learning that. So it was like class again. It was 8 to 5, and it was very brutal. I mean, in the sense of it's just a lot of information overload. Learning a software that we use, however, learn it more in depth. And so we spent a week there learning that. Additionally, I will be attending the planning conference. I'll see both state officials that are sitting on our board. I'll be there representing the MPO. Lastly, I promise, state working groups. I'm involved in a lot of state working groups, like our PL funding. We're putting an MPO guidebook to kind of help MPOs basically, I don't say get on the same page. We're all on the same page, but the sense of how we do things are all very consistent. And so we're helping modeling what each document, our core documents look like, as well as just being more in tune of how if a new MPO gets on board, like Equal Pass will be, they have basically a kind of cheat sheet to kind of help them get them to where they should be in a matter of a year. And then lastly, we are looking through the work program that was approved last year, and we're going through making sure fiscal year 25, make sure we're on track to complete all those. There's a couple things that I will highlight. Our EV electrical plan, that was something that was approved in our program. We're still going to look at that, still evaluate that, get assistance from the state because there's still funding out there to be obtained for our area as they're starting to bring electrical charging within our area. So that's one planning document that will be coming. I did not hire a consultant for that. We're going to do that internally. I feel like we are both adequate enough to figure that out, and with the state's assistance with some of the data, we'll be able to knock that plan out internally and not have to use a consultant. With that, that's all I have today. So,
Any questions, comments? Yep. All right. In that
Good
case,
job.
good job.
thank you.
Definitely.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank y'all.